Three, two, one. You're now tuned into USSFCU Spotlight, where real conversations meet real people. Today's episode, Career Triple Play, hosted by the fabulous April Christian. Let's go.
Today, the job market is like the wild, wild west. Resumes are wanted posters. LinkedIn is the saloon, and landing your dream job feels like hunting for gold. Welcome back to the Spotlight Podcast. I am your host for today, April Christian, and this is where we shine a light on topics that matter most to you and our communities. We are diving into the search, the growth, and the balance, the three big stages of modern career life, and I am joined today by Tennent and Hina, Khalid. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Can you each introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about your work and experience navigating today's hiring landscape?
I'm the CFO at Labor Credit Union, where I oversee accounting, finance, strategic partnerships, risk management, and human resources as well. I've been at the credit union for 5 years, but been in the financial industry for more than 20 years. Started my career in investment banking at Merrill Lynch and have made my way into the credit union industry and love being part of the industry that's really helping people and making an impact. The question about navigating through today's job market, being a millennial, I think I've been exposed to a lot of utilizing different AI strategies, not just in hiring, but also navigating through my own career. So I bring that perspective, and using that, we have been able to pivot our hiring practices to really meet the generational needs of today.
I'm the founder of Capital Connect. We are a community for congressional staffers in Washington, D.C., trying to create opportunities for them to find professional development and to feel more fulfilled in their life here in D.C. So we provide resources for that. We do an app, we have newsletters, and then host events for staffers as well. So I have been a founder for 3.5 years now, worked on Capitol Hill before that. I got to hire some interns while I was on the Hill, but this has been my first experience where I'm in charge of all the hiring. And when a team is so small, obviously personnel is so important, and culture is make or break, because right now there's 4 of us full time, and thank God, because it used to be just me in my bedroom. But so we're getting there, but definitely excited to address some of these issues today.
And to give you all a little about me, I am the Director of People and Culture here at the United States Senate Federal Credit Union. I have 26 years of financial institution experience with 14 years as a human resources professional, and I have a passion for the employee life cycle and love supporting the human in human resources. To kick things off, what has been the most surprising or difficult challenges you faced in the job market, whether hiring or job hunting?
On the job hunting side, I've only ever worked in politics, really, and then worked at a startup, first job out of school. But at least from that side, entering politics, it was this, doesn't matter what you've done before, you're starting from the bottom here. And so I had worked as a marketing and operations director at a startup before that, right out of school. And like any startup, you get a ton of responsibility right off the bat. But none of that mattered when I came to DC, and it's like, all right, start as an intern. So I had to quit my full-time job and make $800 a month for a few months to get onto the Hill. But luckily that got me to where I'm at today. And so seeing it from the employer side of things now, say what's been great that I wasn't expecting is mainly we've hired through LinkedIn. And whenever you put a LinkedIn job posting up, it'll tell you should spend $500 on this posting. I'm like, no, I don't have the money for that. So I put like $5 behind my first campaign at the time when we were first hiring. And we got like 40 or 50 applicants. And probably 20 to 25 quality applicants. So just because LinkedIn tells you have to spend this much money does not mean you actually have to. So pleasantly surprised by like putting just a tiny bit of money behind a job posting. I was able to bring us a lot of people in the door and get those first employees as part of Connect.
Wonderful. Now, what advice would you give to someone? I know you said you was working full time when you first started, and then you just had to pivot, and then you started working part time. And you as an intern. Now, how was that transition, and what advice could you give to someone who's thinking about taking a different path?
Yeah, poof. I think the main thing for me was just working extremely hard and knowing that because I had the skill set that was going to shine through, that I was willing to take a hit for a little bit. And like I prepared financially beforehand. I didn't know I was preparing for that, but I was smart about saving money when I first got out of school, and so it kind of gave me some runway there to survive on no money at all. And so that helped set the foundation, but kind of just relying on my skills and working extremely hard and pestering the people full time, like, hey, like, I'm happy to do more work, like, what can I help with? And just being very intentional about showing, like, hey, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And luckily that helps me move up very quickly. And so don't be the person that just waits to be told something to do. I was always trying to be someone that probably annoyed my direct superiors in the office because I always wanted something to do, and definitely helped out.
The word intentional is key. How about you?
So I would say within the last 20 years, I've seen a significant change in the way interviews are held, the conversations that take place. I think the conversations that we are finding now are more of the employers really selling themselves. The conversations have shifted more towards understanding if it's an emotional fit, assessing the work culture. And if I look back at my career, at those early stages of my career when I was entering the job market, I don't recall that the conversations were more around that. It was more about getting into the organization. I also see a change where the mindset in the past was you work in a company, you get into the company, and you stay there for the rest of your career. Right now, it's people are really assessing if it's a cultural fit, if it's if it's an emotional fit, and if it's not, people are willing to move and move out of the organization as soon as we see that it's not fit. I myself have pivoted from different industries, from different companies, different places, but I think the main thing is having that perfect culture is really important. Now, myself, from the side of applying and getting jobs and things, I think I've been very much out in networking. Most of my roles have been through networking, through LinkedIn. One of my roles was in an organization where I reached out to the CEO on LinkedIn, and we were friends. And I went and started working, and people were surprised. But that was because of networking and being out there and meeting people. And I think that while we talk about AI helping people get jobs and things, I don't think AI can replace networking. There is that personal touch that you have when you go and meet people and talk to people. So I think that's one of the ways I've climbed different ladders, being out there, taking on different roles, and even within my organizations, I was always the first one to volunteer to be part of the bigger projects, and that just gives you more exposure and an opportunity to build more relations.
Absolutely. And culture fit is very important. I'm seeing more and more of candidates asking, how's your culture? That's very important. It's definitely something that has changed over the years. That question has become very popular. No matter if you are starting out or are a self-proclaimed veteran in your career journey, the landscape is always changing. How has AI tools changed the way resumes are reviewed or managed?
Um, I would say we are now at the point where AI is creating resumes and AI is reviewing resumes as well. So I personally myself would say that there are some of my best hires um, have been very outside the box. If you would have looked at the resume, any computer would have looked at the resume, might have not even, they may not even have made it to have a conversation. For example, I hired someone for marketing with a criminal justice background. There's no connection, right? But sometimes you talk to the person and you just see some fit, right? There's that personal touch that's needed, but I I have a son. He was making his resume the other day. He had his resume ready in 3 minutes. He told me I could review his resume in 3 minutes. It was ready with AI and everything, and it was pretty good. There are different applications you can use with AI to make sure that all the words are there. You tell AI that I want to make sure these words are there, and then it will tell you how many times that word is used in your resume. So all of that is really good. That really helps. Make your resume really presentable. And I know that there are a lot of software that are actually reviewing and going through those resumes and filtering those out. I think there's still a need for the personal, emotional, that personal touch. I think that's really necessary. And I also feel that in this time, because AI is filtering out resumes, AI is creating resumes, I think it's really important for people to network, to connect, and actually know the person so that that resume does not get thrown out uh, just using some randomized AI algorithm.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you're in favor of using AI for that resource, for that reason.
Yes, I am, but I think that there should also be some connection. Some, you need to have some personal connection there, and I think there's while AI is great, I think there's still need for a person to have that connection.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in it. I think when I first hired my first two employees, ChatGPT was just coming onto the scene. I was not an early adopter. I'm diehard now, but like, at the time I wasn't using it, and so going through even I don't know, small company, I'm sure you guys have to deal with a lot more than this, but like 20, 30 resumes going through that, you just want to gouge your eyes out by the end of it. So I needed help, and so it was so nice this time around when we were looking for an operations associate to collect all the resumes, do once over myself, kind of pick my favorites, and rate them on LinkedIn, which is really nice that you can rate like good fit, maybe not a good fit. From there, I ran them all through ChatGPT, like, hey, this is our job description. These are the requirements we're looking for. This is the things that stand out to us. And to like kind of get them prioritized that way was super nice. But then also when it came to interviewing people, applying those same guidelines of this is what we're looking for in the position, what on someone's resume is going to stand out, and then also what questions should I ask them. So basically, I would create a list of this is one of the ways I do this, but we would create a list of like the 5 questions that we're definitely asking, and then like 10 more questions based on what the resume looked like. And so I put all that into ChatGPT and say, all right, this resume, which question should I ask? And so it helped with prep time so much, saved me a ton of time. And at the end of the day, like resumes all kind of look the same after you've looked over 20 or 30 of them. And I know we're going to get into that topic a little bit more, so I'll stop there for now.
Yeah, here at the credit union, we are still putting that added personal touch to it. We are reviewing all the resumes that come in. So we have not adopted the AI approach to searching through our resumes, and we are just making sure that culturally that we're reviewing them and that we're putting that extra set of eyes on it. So shout out to all of you all who are currently using that as a resource. Maybe one day we'll get there. All right. And for job seekers, how can they make sure their resumes are actually being seen, especially when keywords matter so much? We were just talking about that.
Yeah, I think to jump off, one of our first hires, he designed his like we were looking for a marketing person, and he designed his resume very nicely, right? Like it was like a green background with like green boxes for his accomplishments, and it looked really nice and it stood out. And I'm like, all right, like this dude knows how to make something look visually appealing. Like check one. So anything you can do to stand outside the box. I also I'm a firm believer in smart brevity from Axios of make everything shorter. Like people's resumes are so long and so boring, and so please just hit like the highlights. I really don't need 2 sentences on how you made graphic designs. So anything to make it shorter and like visually appealing automatically stands out.
Are you in favor of just a one-page resume?
Oh yeah, please. Please.
One page
Half
resume.
page.
Half a page.
I don't care what fraternity you were in, okay? I don't care.
The last 10 years?
No,
No.
just please give me short resumes.
Okay. All right. How about you?
So I love dashboards, and part of it is why I love looking at charts and looking at things that are more in a dashboard summary style and being able to present that. But what I really started liking is the new modern trend of resumes. You see them more like a dashboard where there's a chart that shows some of your skills. It has just highlights. And that's your main dashboard style of resume. I really like those. I think those are really powerful. You tell a whole story. So I think your resume really needs to be able to tell your story. Now, if you can figure out a way to tell that story using a dashboard or summarize it in a small, just small content that tells me that you can tell your story in a few minutes, and that means that you have that confidence and understanding of yourself, of who you are as a person. So I think that's really valuable when people put a lot of content way back many years. Sometimes makes me think that there's a lot more fluff in there. That's just my thought. Sometimes you'll see that fluff. So I believe not having too much fluff and just being more straight to the point and really being able to tell the story of who you truly are.
So one page, straight to the point. Those are very helpful tools that'll make at least the person that's recruiting, it'll make it easier for them.
Yeah, you have to look at it when you're applying to a job too, of thinking about the person on the other end of that and how many of these they're having to go through. What are you going to do to stand out or to make their life easier? And they're going to appreciate that.
I remember a few years ago, back when graphics wasn't really being placed on resumes, I had someone to actually put the logo of the company that they had worked for. And it stood out to me. I just thought it was just the most, perfect resume. I just visually, and it stood out. And so actually they still work here because we did hire them. But yeah, I remember that when that was a thing, and I was visibly attracted to it. So I would say. Right. So there is still a fine line between optimization and personality. How can candidates make sure they're not just checking boxes, but also stand out?
I think kind of to what you were saying about the personalization of a resume, any way that you can bring some sort of personality into this document really helps your chances. And if you have qualifications, you got to show off your qualifications. Like, let's not sell that short. But the thing to stand out, like, sure, everyone has Microsoft Word or Google Suite. Like, anything you can do to show, like, hey, I'm a fun person to work around, or I have that creative eye. I'm thinking outside the box on how this resume is supposed to look, so I'm going to add in images. Anything you can do to show, like, you're going to go the extra mile, or you're thinking outside of how people currently define how to create a resume, I think goes a long way.
I am going to actually ask you another question. After with this, are you looking at just from the resume side or overall as you present yourself?
How about overall?
Overall, I would say how you distinguish yourself as a person, I think just being able to, and I said that earlier too, is being able to tell a story of who you truly are and being genuine and authentic. I think that goes a long way for, when I talk to people and doing something outside the box. So, for example, a lot of positions that we hire will give out a project, say, let's say it's marketing, see if you can sell this thing or do something with this the project, right? Then we see what kind of things people do, and I usually leave it open and you can do whatever from it, right? So one person actually created a whole video commercial out of it. I thought that was really interesting. Some people just took that, created a whole picture, and said, "This is the marketing campaign," right? You can tell who put an effort and how they were thinking outside the box. I think that really sticks, and you really remember the person who did something completely outside the box. So I think that's really important. And I think because of all the technology, AI, everything is getting very common. Everything is very universal, right? So you start seeing everything very similar patterns and everything, and then you see someone comes up with something different. That's what sticks out.
Question for you. Now, when you were talking about the creativity, was that like an assessment you had them to do? Were you interviewing candidates and then you had them to do that as an assessment, or was that something related to them actually working with you and you gave them a project?
Oh no, as an assistant.
Okay.
As an assistant. So I don't oversee marketing and business development right now, but initially I had launched that for the beginning. Now it's certainly someone else oversees it. But when we were establishing that for the organization, we had everything very creative, very creative. The title was a marketing trailblazer, someone who really leads the way, leads the path. So we wanted someone very innovative. So what I did is I literally sent out some data and said, take this data and create some, give me what you're going to do with this data, right? How are you going to market to these group of people? And that was all made up data. But just seeing what I hear, what I see, I think that was helpful, and we do that a lot in most of our job roles. A lot of the interview process, we do put some form of project or something. Sometimes it's a presentation. How would you make a peanut butter sandwich? That's a small thing, right? Do a presentation around that, or tell me how you make a peanut butter sandwich. You'd be surprised at the kinds of presentations and the kinds of approaches people have taken with that
creativity
with a peanut butter sandwich. But just seeing that different touch, that's fun. And then we add that, it just makes it a fun conversation, and we get to really see the person on how creative they can be, how outside the box they can think. And of course, it's different roles that learn different things. So
it helps you select that top candidate.
yes.
Yeah, I love that. I'm gonna start using that because I have a very specific way that I make my PB and J, and I want to see how other people do it. But I think it can actually tell you a lot about someone. But I'm changing my answer about what's most surprising.
Okay.
It was definitely the weed out of creating a project that is like part of the interview process. So many people won't do it, and they'll just like ghost you after that for a very simple project. And so I think it really shows like if someone is just applying to another job, or if they actually like want to come work for you and they're willing to put in that extra effort. So thank you for saying that. I think it's so true and been so valuable for us to see, especially when you don't know somebody, right? Like all you have is a resume on them and you look at their LinkedIn, and it's really not going to be a great indication of who they truly are. And so if you can put in that extra step of, hey, like, are you willing to put in some effort here? And it doesn't have to be perfect, but let's at least see if they have some discernible skills here, if it's matching up with what their resume says. And so that's been super beneficial to us. On the other side of like the personality side of thing of, I'd say interviewing, especially beyond just resumes, what's hard is everyone tries to put on their most presentable self. And yeah, sure, do that as the interviewee, right? But it's really hard for the employer to know for sure, is this an act or is this the real person? And I guess I'm just voicing the problem that I see of like, how do you like fight through the noise? It's like, yeah, everyone's going to be their most presentable self when they come into an interview. And it's really hard to truly know how someone's going to be as a worker based off of them being nervous and also being very intentional about how they're coming off in that moment. So how can you bring personality into that? I guess because I'm skeptical going in, like, you're like too prim and polished for this. Like, I don't know what's coming of that. But if someone comes in and is like a little silly or themselves or like very technical about something, like I think that's a great way to show off like who you truly are and who you're going to be in the role instead of like just being your LinkedIn polished, perfect version of yourself.
Well, adding that assessment will definitely help you as you're going through that interview process, and definitely have them come in person with that
Sure.
to make sure that you're getting the person that is ideal for the role.
Yeah.
All right. Really quickly, are there any industry specific resume strategies our listeners should know about, such as tech versus creative versus corporate resumes?
I think we kind of touched on this, but to some extent, like if I'm hiring someone for design and marketing, show that you're good at design and marketing, and you better have your portfolio on your PDF, but also make it look nice, right? Think outside the box there. Whereas, like, if I'm hiring for an operations role, maybe it's extremely organized, right? Or hey, like, this is where you go to see this, and I've linked some projects I've worked on before. Like, just try to figure out ways to exemplify the role that you're looking for in the resume.
Great advice.
I think industries are so intermingled now that I don't know if I would say you need specific different resumes for a specific industry. Maybe 15, 20 years ago, would have asked me, I would say, yes, I need a certain kind of a resume for more financial industries and versus technical versus other maybe government stuff. But I think now there's just so much there's just so much commonalities and there's just so intermingled. And now actually people do prefer to have bring people with coming from different industries, people who have backgrounds in different industries, and seeing that seeing the story that they have to tell from working in different industries. So I don't think that there is really a need to have a specific resume for a specific industry. I would just go back to saying what I said earlier. If you have a dashboard, a resume that is a summary, that's really a summary of who you are and what you do, and I don't think it's specific to an industry, it can be applicable anywhere.
So you're saying like more so focus on, especially in your resume, more of the universal skills that could fit within any industry that you may be looking to either stay in or advance to.
Yes, I think being able to highlight what your true skills are, because sometimes those skills, you can really transfer those skills to another industry, but really being able to tell the story who you truly are. And as an employer, we can see that this skill can be applicable to our industry as well. I think we can easily see that. It doesn't have to be a specific industry specific resume. Like I said, I hired someone from a completely different background into a financial institution, right? They were very different industry, but I was able to see some key skills that the person had that I thought that would be helpful for our organization. So I think those skills can easily be they're very transferable now, and also with the whole AI and the technology and being able to look up things. If you don't have people don't have that technical background, that can be figured out. You can look it up. You can look up and search things and figure things out. But knowing that you have that ability to learn, you are innovative, you are inquisitive, right? Those are the things I would look for rather than specific technical skills. Because if you are inquisitive, you're innovative, you'll be able to learn, you'll be able to adapt and learn and really figure things out.
Great advice, thank you. All right, let's play a quick game. So we're going to play red flag, green flag. Okay, so you have your flags. I am going to read out a few resume characteristics, and you'll respond by holding up either your red flag or your green flag, depending on whether you think it's a deal breaker or a standout feature. Ready? Leaving your address off your resume. You have a green flag up, and can you share why you chose the green flag?
I don't think that having the address on your resume really matters, especially nowadays. A lot of the positions are remote, so I just think that it's additional information that is not needed on a resume. I would use that space for something else, and that can be something that you have in a conversation on where you are. And again, it also depends on the position, but most of the positions that we have here, we have all remote. So I don't know if I would really look at address.
Are you remote in all 50 states, or just a select number of states?
So we have not all 50 states, but we have people remote all over.
Okay. So 50 states.
I don't know if we have covered all 50 states.
How about you?
So I come at it from a different perspective of one, working in politics, but also as someone who only wants to hire people who are willing to work in person. And when I'm looking at resumes and I see someone in California applying to a job where it's going to be in DC, I kind of delegitimize that resume in my head a little bit, right? Of how are they really going to move from California to come out here? And some people are. And so if you're willing to move to that, if you see a job posting that says Washington, D.C., in-person work, and you're willing to make that move because you want to come work for us, protect yourself from the judgment of myself for being in a different state. So I think it can only hurt someone's chances of getting a job if you put it on there. And in politics, when I was trying to get a job in Congress, I was living in Pittsburgh, PA at the time, and I had a friend who was in DC, and she said, just use my address on the resume, which is dishonest. Going back, maybe I wouldn't have done that. I definitely would have done that now, but at the time, I was like, all right, I'm going to get my job on the Hill. And so I used her DC address. She's like, people won't look at your resume unless you're in the area because they want quick turnarounds. And so, no, government is not the best idea of the most efficient or perfect way to do things. But I think there's a lot of times where people get a little judgy about what address you put on your resume. And so protect yourself from that.
So here at the United States Senate Federal Credit Union, we are employed in 13 states. And so for us, a person who, as you stated, may be in California may not be one of our states. So it can be beneficial, but then also we can get through the interview process and find out, oh man, you're such a great candidate, but you have to relocate because you are in California, So I guess at what stage in the process you think that should be kind of revealed if they leave that resume off? If they leave the address off, at what stage do you, have that conversation with them?
Yeah, it's definitely something I would ask in the intro interview. It's where are you at? And then immediately, are you willing to relocate? Or if you're doing the posting on LinkedIn, you can ask questions that are non-negotiables, and they'll filter out if they answer no on something. You could say are you willing to relocate if you're out of town? So I think it's definitely worth asking early on, and don't waste your time. But if it gets you that first step in the door to get that first interview, then hey, maybe that works.
Hey, maybe they'll be willing to relocate, right?
Yeah.
That's possible. All right. Listing qualifiable achievements.
I guess.
What did you? Yeah. Okay. Anyone want to take that? Reason?
I mean, yeah, I want to know why you're supposed to be in the job.
Anything to add to that?
I like it when people list their qualifiable achievements specifically. It actually gives me some things to talk about, conversational. When people say that these are some specific accomplishments that I have, right? Well, tell me about it, right? And then we can see people talk about that, really understand their process, their how they did that, how they achieved it. It really shows you the drive to grow or to drive to still drive to achieve something. So I like having those in there, and then I would also recommend that if you have any achievements in any qualification that are very specific pertaining to that job, make sure that you highlight those on the resume. Make sure that you have highlighted things where it really demonstrates that you can come into the job.
Wonderful answers. All right, references available upon request. All right, how about emphasizing soft skills? All right, so this was a great
We agree on
kind of
everything.
day. Yeah, so great minds are thinking alike. All right, interviews have changed too. How has virtual interviews and behavioral questions shifted the hiring dynamics, especially across different age groups? Start with you, David.
So the way we do interviews, and we're a four-person company, so don't take how we do it as gospel. But we usually try to get very quick 15-minute like precursor interviews in with like the people that we think should be on the list, and just say like, hey, let's make sure you're not crazy. And so that's a good start for us to just do a phone call to see like, well, hey, why do you want to be a part of the role? Are you willing to relocate? Few set questions of just like, let's do this quick, but let's just figure out if you go on to the next round. And a great way to just judge personality quickly. After that, I'm a firm believer all interviews should be in person because I don't think you get the true essence of someone virtually. I think we all know that at this point. But especially when it comes to a final round interview, I want to make sure we're getting that person together somewhere. I'd like to take them to a coffee shop or something, not just like a office setting where we can kind of get out of a normal setting, maybe loosen them up a little bit, get them some caffeine, and like see where it goes from there. Yeah, that's super important to me. I'm happy to hear what you have to think on that.
So your question was around the differences in different generations and
Virtual interviews and behavioral
the questions. I would say I like to make it more conversational, like to be more conversational and really fun getting to know the person. And I think different generations, people work differently. Some people think that work is work, and everything outside the work is a separate life, right? And really, I think that nowadays it's all a balance, right? Everything is work is part of who you are. It defines you, and really being able to understand that, ask questions. I think sometimes you have to ask questions differently, but I think it's not just generational. I think it's based on personalities and how you really get to know and help people open up. I think we have to tailor some of the questions around the different personality types. So I don't know if it's generational, but I do see that the concept of work has shifted from what it was 20, 30 years ago, where it was just work and not a lot of work balance. Now it's more of work is just part of who you are and what's your personal life and your work is very kind of mingled together. People bring your pets to work. People bring their pets, people bring their kids. Like people know each other as a family. People know each other as a person. I think some of that was not there 30 years ago. So just when you have conversations, trying to get to know the person, I think that's really important. A lot of times I talk to people and ask them what they like to do, and they keep talking about professional stuff, and then I'm like, well, outside of work, like, what do you really like to do? Who are you as a person, right? Like, how do you deal with stress outside of work?
Yeah.
What is that, right? I love to dance, right? To take my stress off, right? How do I get someone to say that? It's different for everyone. So sometimes I'll talk to them about who I am as a person and what I bring to work, authentic like myself, who am I as a person, and try to understand that and get that from the other person. I think it's just different, maybe different personalities, but also the generations of people who have been thinking, oh, this is just strictly work conversation. I don't want to bring anything about my personal life here. I think that's where you have to really help people open.
Yeah. For sure. And it like helps a lot too. Sometimes you uncover things that make you want to hire that person in the end because for one person it was, oh yeah, I do a podcast on the side, or another, I love to like just create graphic designs, or I can't remember the exact example of someone that I was hiring for an operations role, but she had all these things that she did on the side, and I was like, oh, like that makes you so qualified for the position because you're a well balanced person, right? And so it's a great point.
I'm gonna pick your brain, and have you ever had a person that was going through the interview process and there was something that stood out about them or something that they said and they were, it was kind of intentional, and you realized, hey, they may weren't my top candidate at the time, but this, what they said or something that they may have done made them stand out and you ended up hiring
Yes. Yes. It's happened a couple of times. Where sometimes when you're in the conversation, sometimes you look at a resume, you look at it, and I'll have a conversation, I'll see, right? Or I'm not sure. But then when you have a conversation, and sometimes it leads to something else, and you find out something, and you think, oh, yeah, that would be a great fit. And then that leads to more conversation. So I love asking questions. Everyone in my organization knows I'm going to keep asking deeper and deeper, dig deeper. I think I like to do that. So I really like to ask those questions. And sometimes when you dig deeper, you help someone reveal something that sometimes they're not even intentional, but they reveal something about themselves that make you think that's the person I want to be, because I know there's this gap. This gap that I want to fill. That this person can, and sometimes people do it intentional, and sometimes it's unintentional. I've had a number of examples. I can't think of one specific one, or I wouldn't really talk about one who's a specific person, but I think there are a couple of examples like that that happens all the time.
I think like how often is liking some sort of computer program could be the thing that sets you apart, but when you get to that deeper stuff outside of who they are as a professional, you start to realize who they are as a person, and it does make you way more inclined. And so for me, it was one of my current employees, Nick, who talked about his podcast and talked about his love for film and really gave you an idea of who he was as a person, that he was willing to commit to something on the side, to follow a passion project, and to challenge himself outside of work. That's the stuff that sticks out, right? Like how often is the thing that sticks out from that perspective going to be just another professional thing? So like show who you are as a person inside of that process and what motivates you to keep working on something after 9 to 5.
I have another examples like that as well. I had a person who was he had his YouTube channel and he loved training, physical, like just fitness training. So he had his podcast where he would give suggestions and advice about weightlifting and training and things like that. That's completely outside of work, and definitely outside of what I would be following or looking at or anything. But he told me about that, and I said, well, and he said, I have followers, and people follow me. We were hiring him for marketing, and I said, well, do you mind if I look at your YouTube channel? He's like, yeah, follow me. So I did follow him, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. There's all these followers who are following him for that advice. So I thought, well, if he gives financial advice, I connected that physical training advice with financial advice. That's what we are here to provide, financial advice to help people make financial decisions. And this person is helping people make health decisions or fitness decisions. So I connected with those dots, and I said, come on board and let's see how you can use those skills. But that definitely came out from a personal conversation, really getting to know the person.
Wow, this is a success story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you both for sharing. And the classic debate, are cover letters still relevant in 2025?
I think yes. Honestly,
Okay, we're going to take your guess.
I'm just going to say that because last time I was going through the hiring process, I was just thinking to myself, like, I wish I had some cover letters here, But, like, I'm not going to take my preference over the ease of applying, because I'd rather the ease of applying, because, with LinkedIn Easy Apply, I don't think that it provides cover letters or anything like that. But it would be really nice to get a little bit more of a narrative behind someone of like trying to understand where they're at in their search and what they're trying to accomplish and creating some sort of like long-term vision there, I think would be super helpful. I'm not going to begrudge anyone for not doing it, but personally, I've found myself wondering recently, like, I wish I had a cover letter too right now.
So you took a different, had a different answer for that.
Yes.
So can you share?
I'm not much into the traditional cover letter, but if you have a resume and your resume has like, so the way I had on my resume, if I did something, I had a link where you can go kind of read about that, right? There's my webpage, my website, so you can go and see who I am on there. Just those things, I would just prefer those rather than having a whole cover letter. I don't know if I would really go and read through the cover letter, but then again, I am very untraditional, so I find cover letter very traditional. I would prefer just having something along with your resume. It could be in your marketing portfolio that you attach, and there's a link where you can go and look at that portfolio. If you are, it could be anything, right? If you're in finance, it could be a project or presentation, something that you've done and stuff, and just have a link that someone can go in there and look at it. I think those things make a difference. And I'm not saying that people should put in proprietary information or anything, but you can easily change numbers, change names, and just create like a quick presentation or a quick overview of something that you did. And having that attached, I think that helps a lot. I would prefer those rather than a cover letter, just a link to other. They have a personal website or something like that that highlights all the accomplishments and the programs.
So if you're not providing a cover letter, then you provide the links. So either way, you're still telling your story.
Yes.
What are some additional creative strategies you've seen people use, especially new grads or career switchers, to stand out without traditional experiences?
I think we have a lot of good questions here, so I'll try to be brief on this one. I'd say a lot of what I have said as far as like utilizing the skill set that you have and incorporating that into your resume, like designing it well or like the dashboard type of thing. Whatever it's going to be to like create a good representation of the job that you're trying to get. That's my favorite part.
We have touched a lot on being creative outside the box. I would say similar to that, just being outside the box, whatever you can do to make your resume stand out. And again, I'm a very big believer of what you attach with your resume, what things you have, what else comes with it, what else I'm presenting and showing to you. Even if it's a quick dashboard, the dashboard has a couple of things that can go into your portfolio, into pageants you've done. That's no doubt.
Maybe like a little summary, especially for like career switchers or something like that, or even a new grad, like instead of a cover letter, maybe like a little summary or something in the top of your resume. Like, don't just write the same, like, young professional seeking a job, and like actually have some fun with it. Like, be creative in that, be funny, be super serious. I don't know, but just don't do the same boring thing as everyone else. Like, find some way to stick out.
Be intentional.
Yep, there you go.
And be creative.
I would also say try to connect whatever industry you're coming from to this industry. So if you can tell that story, that yes, I was in this industry, I was doing this, but this is how it translates into the industry. Like I said, someone giving physical fitness advice and then taking that and saying I can use that to provide financial advice, right? How do you link that? Being able to tell that story, I think that's really really understand what industry you are going into and understand who you are as a person, what are you bringing, and how can you connect the dots between the two industries. I think that's really I personally have moved in different industries myself, and being able to bring things from this industry to another industry. And I think sometimes it's actually valuable to bring someone from an outside industry, from an outside perspective. I say that they're not drinking the same Gatorade that everyone is, right? So if you bring someone from a different industry, sometimes it's very innovative, it's a very fresh perspective. But being say that I bring my first perspective, and this is what I can do coming up from outside the industry, is very valuable.
I've heard you say this, tell your story. That's very important. You can tell the story through your resume and cover letter. Right. Well, we all know once you're in the journey doesn't end unless you are preparing to retire. Let's discuss the growth. How should professionals think about building a career that's adaptable instead of just vertical?
I think like our work culture has decided that we go to work to make money, to provide for our family, to buy a house, to, do the whole rat race thing. And I think it robs a lot of people of joy and fulfillment in their lives. And I do think if you're passionate about something, you can find a career out of that. And now for me, like work is the thing that brings me joy, and I love to work. Whereas my wife has never been someone who has like found fulfillment in work, and she does work to do work, and her fulfillment comes at home and other things she does. But for me, I definitely can get caught up in that rat race sometimes of like, I just have to do this and do this. But like the thing where I really found joy in my work experience and adaptability was when I realized the things that I get excited to do for work and the things I'm talented in, and finding careers in that set of skills was extremely valuable for my overall mental health, my joy, who I am as a person. And so if my idealistic mindset, if we could all just pursue our passions and care less about the standard of how much money we're supposed to make, or my mom always wanted me to be an engineer. I'm like, Mom, I can't do fifth grade math. How am I supposed to be an engineer? But so like, I don't think we should all just like try to fit these stereotypes of what we're supposed to do with our profession. Like, let's go out and find what brings us joy and do those things.
Follow your passion.
Yeah.
I agree that there is a standard code that you do this, and then you gradually grow within your roles, and not everyone wants that, right? Like, what is it that you really want? Like, I have had people who have told me that they don't want a management position, they don't want to grow. They're happy with what they're doing, and they're great at what they're doing. They don't want to be a manager. Not everyone is looking for that next role or that typical steps, the ladder of growth. But I think us as leaders, we really have to help people find that passion. Like you said, like, what is it that you enjoy doing? And once you have a passion for something, then you will be adaptable, you will be nimble, you will do anything, and you will be flexible around it, and you can even look at it differently. But I think just having that typical set of ladder, typical box of, you do this, and then you get to this role, and you do this, and then you get that role, like you said, you do engineering, then you go do that, just a typical standard path that is set out there. And I don't know if the new generation really wants to go on that same path. I don't know if they want to try to fit into that box. I think we have to really create a box that can fit what the generation needs are. I don't think that those needs the generations are specifically around that typical, you just make money by following these steps and you just grow your career. The typical approach, you graduate, then you get your job, then you get your house, then that whole pathway, I think it's different. Like, a lot of people now are looking at things differently, look at work differently. A lot of people don't even want to get a house. They're like, well, I just want to travel. I want a job that will help me move around here and there. I want to look at my life the same way that my parents or grandparents approached it. It's very different.
Absolutely. Great advice. Skill stacking can be extremely useful, notable when tied into knowledge sharing. What best ways can organizations pass on wisdom across generations?
What does skill stacking mean?
Skill stacking is where you are building on just the skills that you are trying to for the job that you're trying to reach. Versus the universal practical experience of just taking in all of the actual skills that the job may offer.
Gotcha. I'll let you answer first.
I would say that we as leaders are not just transferring knowledge, we're helping build people, build your profession, build you as a professional. And sometimes it's not just the transfer of knowledge because you can get the transfer of knowledge from ChatGPT. You can get that from anywhere, honestly. With we used to talk about cross-functional skills and developing these skills and everything. A lot of that you can get from AI. You can go out there and Google. You can search things. But I think what we as leaders have to work on is really helping people develop as professionals, helping them learn, getting them to the point where they are inquisitive. How do you make them inquisitive? How do you ask the right questions so that they are able to go out there and search? Anyone can search for anything, right? But knowing what you search for, you can give ChatGPT any command and it will give you an answer, right? But what is it that you really want to search for? What is that question that you want to ask? That's what I think what we have to teach others. And as far as stackable skills, I think there's a lot of that comes from working and in the industry, talking to people and interactions with your coworkers. A lot of that comes from here, but I think as organizations, we really have to help build individuals in their ability to think, be inquisitive, be innovative, ask the right questions, and if you can teach them how to ask the right questions, then we can go out there and get those answers from ChatGPT. That's my response.
Anything to add, Dave?
Yeah, I think as a startup, my goal is to never feel like a corporation, and it's so hard. Even before we had more than 2 employees, it's like, all right, let's create as many operational codes as possible. This is how we do these things, right? And just make everything very fluid on how it gets done. And you very quickly get into this mindset of okay, just read this document and you're good to go. But when a leader takes you aside and says hey, let me help you buy into the vision. This is what we're trying to accomplish here. This is how this fits into that. This is how you actually do this position, and really guide them along the way. I think something like that can really help bridge the gap between here's the knowledge you're supposed to have, and here's why we're doing it or why you should get excited about it. So I definitely find faults of myself in not doing that enough, where you're busy, you don't always have the time to sit down and really invest in the person, but the more you do that, the better off you're going to be long term.
Wonderful. Well, growth isn't just about how far you can get in your career. It is also about how well you can take care of yourself. What does emotional toll ambition look like today? And are employers doing enough to support mental health at work?
I wouldn't know about all employers, but definitely from our perspective, I think really helping people find that work-life balance and making sure that people are not pressured. Sometimes, of course, in a smaller organization, credit union, a lot of people have to put up a lot of different roles. Sometimes they have to put on different hats, which means added responsibilities and added work pressure. So we as leaders have to ensure that we are on time. So we're not just throwing things at the last minute and not really making them sacrifice their work-life balance. So really helping people be more strategic with their time management. Those are things that we work with people. I think, well, And then there are a couple of different things that we have implemented in our organization just to support people. In terms of our benefits, we have added benefits that we offer people that are just supportive of things that can help bring peace for you, right? That could be a subscription to Spotify, music helps, right? We'll pay for your subscription. You need to go to the gym, your personal, fitness. We'll pay for that. And the way we did that is we came up with an a la carte benefits, like a menu where you can select one, two, three. You can select whatever you want up to a certain amount. So if you are a person with kids, you would be interested in the tuition reimbursement, but or childcare reimbursement, right? Or if someone doesn't have kids, this benefit is not useful for me, right? But I go to the gym, so maybe I'll pick the gym one. Or I'm following a health meal plan. I can take that. I'll take that to pay for my, there are different companies, the fresh foods and stuff, all kinds of meal plans, right? So I'll select that one, company pay for that. So it's all on you, what you prefer, right? I'll let you meditate. I have this subscription for meditation with Netflix or Spotify or something. I'm gonna have that. Pick that. So we have offered different benefits, and we offered like a la carte menu. So you just add up. You could choose one thing and have it all reimbursed with that. You could choose like two or three. You can do whatever you want, but it's very different for every person, and every person has different needs. So we wanted to be very inclusive in our benefits, and that's something we've done. We of course have options where people can. There's a phone line where people can call in and talk about any issues, mental health issues, and things. So we have that subscription. You can call in, it's all anonymous. There's no one from the trade union who would know. You can have that conversation. You can make that call. Along with that, we are continuously having conversations with our staff. There's a concept of exit interviews, right? We call these stay interviews, but we do a lot of those stay interviews are really trying to understand if you are happy, how's your mental health here right now, like how are you finding that balance between work and life, are you satisfied here, what is needed, what are some things that are causing you stress. So we have those conversations throughout. We call those stay interviews. So we do that, a number of different things. But I think every employer, I guess, does things differently, so I can't really speak of others, but that's what we do at the credit union. But I think the need for employers to think outside the box. I've been talking about bringing in people to think outside the box. Now I'm going to say how we are trying to think outside the box to really be inclusive and really understand the needs that people have. And I think that need is greater than it was before. And we just have to be very careful that we are adhering to those needs.
Wonderful. I heard you talk about state interviews. I've never heard of that before. So is it something that you have it mapped out throughout the year where it's like checkpoints, or is it something that you send out maybe as a survey? Is it just your conversations that you may have with your staff on a bi-weekly basis? Like how is that structured?
So we have our director of HR. She'll arrange every month. She will pick a few people every month, kind of just random. She has it all in her calendar. But every month there will be a few people that she'll talk to and just see how they're doing. And a lot of times, people will express their stress and how things are going, what they're dealing with, and it just gives us a lot of insight. And sometimes that, when I talk about our a la carte menu, a lot of that came from those conversations. We're like, oh yeah, people are doing this, so let's add this to our a la carte menu. We're doing this to deal with stress. Let's add this to our a la carte menu. Make sure we are providing reimbursement for those. So some of that came from there. Sometimes you hear there are a lot of things that get uncovered there. So I'm not going to go into everything, but you hear a lot of things, right? It could be the leadership style. It could be the leadership that they're working with. It could be the projects they're working with. It could be team dynamics. It could be something from outside of work that we talk about. But it really helps us to for us to get together and say, okay, what do we want to do for benefits, right? What can we do to help this employee going through these things? How can we shift this person's maybe the workload, maybe the responsibility, maybe the person needs a different work schedule. A lot of things that come up from there. But yeah, we've been doing that for almost 2 years now.
Well, yeah, still that. Go back to my Chief Human Resource Officer with that one. How about you, Dick?
Yeah, I think what you're doing with the benefits stuff is very admirable, and I look to get to that place where we can be that generous with our staff. So I'll talk more to the culture side of the mental health thing, and I want to talk about ambition. But for the culture side, it's like what I can do for mental health for my staff is set boundaries of when they're supposed to be online and make sure they have a lunch break and make sure they actually have a lunch break and don't work through lunch. Create an environment where when we do check-ins, our staff are extremely honest with us and provide real feedback and feel like they can tell us what's going on in their lives. And then on top of that, knowing my employees, and obviously it's easy, there's 4 of them, so it's not too hard right now, but like managers need to understand their employees and need to know them at a personal level so that when they're off, you can tell that they're off. You're like, hey, I noticed you're feeling a little this way today, what's going on? And if you create a space where people feel like they can be honest with you, then they're going to do that, to open up and check-ins and so on. So those are my thoughts there. To that perspective, though, like ambition can't be contained by working 9 to 5. My biggest pet peeve, I'd say, is when people log on exactly at 9 and log off exactly at 5. And like, it doesn't matter if you're right in the middle of something or if you didn't get something done that day, like, okay, I'm done with work, like going back to the other part of my life. I understand those boundaries and I want to make sure that we protect them. But like someone with ambition is going to say, no, like not every single day, but every once in a while or whatever, like, no, there's this one thing that's really bothering me. I want to figure it out. I'm going to keep going on it. Or I'm really intrigued by this project I'm going down. I'm going to stay online and work on that. Like, that's what I want out of an employee. And it's okay if not everyone's like that. But if I could have less people that were more like that, I would choose it every single time.
All right. We hope that we are providing some gems here so far, but right now we want to take a moment and reflect. Are you climbing a ladder that you choose or one that was handed to you? Take a moment to rethink, reset, and thrive. On the other end of that, how can employees set boundaries without fear of repercussions, particularly as we have moved to digital workspaces?
Yeah, I think the way when I was an employee working in Congress, which has no boundaries and no one gets to just work 9 to 6, unless there were extenuating circumstances, I kind of just set the tone of, all right, I'm going to leave at 6. Unless I'm in the middle of something, I'll finish that and then I'll go. And there's this idea in a lot of organizations beyond Congress that desk watching of like, oh, where are they? Like, are they still here? And so people will just sit there and do nothing just to make sure that like they stay longer than other people. And I was able to do that because I had a boss that set good boundaries too, right? I'd worked in offices before that where it was not 9 to 6, it was 8 to 8 or 8 to 9 every single day. And so I came into that office with this like always on mentality, sending him emails from home at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, like, hey, we should do this, we should do this. And one day I came into work and my chief of staff pulled me aside and he just says, stop emailing me after work. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, that was the permission I needed, right? Like, I needed to be able to say, all right, there's an end to my day, because the lifestyle I was living from a work perspective wasn't healthy before that. And so the ability to know these are my boundaries and I'm going to stick to them, and I'm not going to try to be the person that's trying to show off and be here longer than everyone else. Now, I had the benefit of knowing I was going to leave to start my own business. And so I didn't care about like the optics of things in the same way. But if the workday is 9 to 6, as I just said, I like people to work beyond that or whatever, but know your boundaries and stick to them. Don't stick around just to prove something to anyone. Just do your thing.
I would say gone are the days when people had to just sit there, work extra long hours, and try to prove themselves. And I think as leaders, as managers, you can react to people. When people tell me that they're doing a lot, they're staying extra hours, and sometimes we have to go back and say, how can you help you manage your work, right? But I think as employees, it's really important that we come out there and talk to your managers, talk to you. If you're not comfortable talking to a brand manager, maybe some other leader in the organization, but really being able to talk about what is it that's causing you to be working such late hours, right? What is that? Is there any anxiety behind being working late? Is there just a passion? Is it anxiety? Is it tight turnaround time or timeline that you're trying to make? What is the cause for you to be there for long? Right? And for some people, it might be that they don't mind. They're like, well, I once shouldn't felt that way, right? Every person works differently. I have a team that prefers to start working at 6 in the morning, and but they log off earlier, right? If I have to send them, I sometimes will sit late and work late, right? But when I send them emails, I'll make sure that I have it sent in the morning, so they're not sitting there thinking, "Oh, she sent it to me at 9 p.m., but she's expecting a response," right? And some people they know. I've already spoken with them. Okay, I'll send you things in the night, so that when you're there at 6 in the morning, you can look into it. I won't be there at 6 in the morning. I tell them I'm not there at 6 in the morning, right? So I'm different. I have a different work style. I have my first meeting would start until 9, but everyone is different, and I think it's really important for people to talk about. Okay, this is my lifestyle. This is my work style. This is how I function. I prefer to work until around these hours. Those are my preferred work hours. Right? And if someone tells me that I do well working till 8, but that's the way. That's when I am the most productive. Right? Everyone is different, so be it. But just making sure that there's no burnout. I think that's something important. I think it's really important for employees to have a voice to be able to say, "Hey, this is not working out. This is really taking a toll on my health." And if it comes to that point, then having those conversations with people, and if you have conversations and you're not seeing any change, then sometimes it's time to maybe move on to another role or another place where you have that balance.
So providing and supporting that flexibility is very important. We have all seen the consequences of burnout and not setting boundaries with ourselves at work. What are some of the real health or productivity impacts you've noticed when balance is missing?
Wait, what's balance? Well, it's coming off of the worst cold I've ever had in my entire life. The lead up to that was me just like, I have a 6-month-old at home. And so my work life has completely changed since then. And time feels like the most valuable asset in the world. And so I'm an early riser. I'll be the one in at 6 and like do the 6 to 2 or 3 o'clock. But then I'm also the founder. So I don't get offline when I go home. I'm answering Slack. So I'm working on projects while my baby is napping. So like the day continues. Now my wife works with business too. So the day never ends, but that's okay. We love that. But to that point, in my head, I knew I was burning the candle at both ends and this wasn't sustainable, but I didn't do anything in my power to stop that. And then God goes, yeah, you need to take a break, and hits me with the worst cold I've ever had. So it was just a little shakeup. It was so bad that I had to be like, Lord, what are you trying to show me? I do not feel okay right now. And I realized through it was, I am not letting myself invest in myself. I'm investing in my business. I'm investing in my family. I'm investing in my daughter and my wife. But I was not focusing on myself in any way. And so I'm going to be more intentional about letting myself invest myself through yoga or through just taking my morning a little bit slower and getting back into the things that are valuable towards the business overall if I let myself be myself. If you ever have questions about work-life boundaries, more than happy to answer them.
Great check-in with yourself. How about you?
Well, I had my check-in started this year, January, when I was diagnosed with stage 2 cancer. So, kind of this whole year, I've been doing that, investing there as well, working. And it's really helped me see, really helped me learn that I find joy. I mean, that's something that defines me. And there were times of taking times off, I had through surgery, and coming up. But as I took time off, I was not well, nothing, but I was missing work. I was still connecting, I was still checking in. I had my phone, I would be in the hospital, I would be checking things on my phone, I don't know what's happening. Let me follow up on that Teams chat, the group discussion, because I'm concerned about what's happening. I learned about myself that I cannot disconnect because that's part of who I am. And it's not that it's unhealthy. I don't think that that's causing my health to deteriorate or anything. I think it's just a part of myself. So, as I think the thing that I missed the most was when I was through this recovery was not being there in the organization, not being there in person events. I think that's the thing I miss the most. So that really helped me realize that who I am is really what I do. That's a part of who I am. So it's a very it's very connected, like you said, right? That there's no time, there's no boundaries, right? I have my kids, I have my family, I do everything. But at the same time, I'm also doing work, and for me, it's not just a 9 to 5 for me. It's whatever time I get, I work here. Whenever I get time, I'm doing this, balancing with kids and things. So I think it was different, but I would say, I think going back to your question, if I have seen things change or if what I've seen come from burnouts, I have seen that from our other employees and people I've had in my teams. I can start seeing as soon as there's burnout, what I've started seeing is that you start seeing more errors, you start seeing that productivity does go down. There is, if you look at the graph, there is a time where things just plateau. People are working out more hours, where the productivity just plateaus right there. Because people are working more, but they're sometimes not really focused. There's just stress out happening. So sometimes people have to go back and do things, and have people say, "Well, I was working late trying to get this thing done, and then I didn't even save the spreadsheet or things like that because they're in so much stress, and now I have to redo it." So I'm like, what was the point, right? But that happens when you're in stress, and I think that's really important to understand when that burnout is happening. When is that burnout making you less productive? I think being able to find that balance is important. And again, work is very different for everyone. Not everyone might be thinking of work the way I am, or like the way you were thinking. We were talking about some people do want to disconnect at 5, and for them, work is just work, and then we find joy in other things in life. But I think it's really important to find some. It's really important to find work that gives you joy, because once you do that, then you don't get that stress or that burnout, or even if you do, you feel good about it. So there is a saying that if you love what you do, then you're not really working. So I believe in that.
It's evident that you both enjoy what you do and have found your passion.
This is Washington, D.C., right? We all love to work.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so one last question, and of course, a classic one at that. What is one piece of career advice you give your younger self?
Don't fit into other people's like definition of like what you're supposed to be. I think working in politics, I realized everyone tries, not everyone, most people try to fit the typical type of staffer vibe. Whether you're a Republican staffer, Democratic staffer, you kind of go your own separate ways off of that. But there is a certain monolith of like, this is who I'm trying to be like. And early on in my career, I definitely wanted to fit that idea of what everyone else thinks I'm supposed to be. And luckily kind of got out of that. My rebellious side worked out there. But anytime where you can just decide, this is who I am, this is what's gotten me this far, I'm going to be myself and stick out, and I'm okay with that. Like, just be confident. And confidence is such a hard thing, but just knowing who you are and knowing that you're capable is extremely important in that process.
Right. I would say that when an opportunity knocks on your door, open the door and embrace it with open arms, because an opportunity is not going to knock again. And sometimes you just have to be open, take that risk. I am a swimmer, so I say when you're outside the pool, the water might seem cold, and when you jump, there's that cold plunge. But then once you get inside, you start feeling comfortable, and sometimes you just have to be ready to take that jump into cold water, and get into the new pool, try out something completely different, and that's been my key for success. In all different organizations in different parts of my career, I've always been the first one to jump at any project, completely different. Whether I knew it well or not, I was like, well, I'm going to try it, I'm going to jump into it. So I think that's what's helped me grow. And once you are able to figure it out, once you jump in the pool, you'll either drown or you'll swim through it. So that's been my strategy. Let's jump in the pool and then we'll figure out how to swim.
Absolutely. And the key to finding your passion is to keep going. Keep trying new things, keep striving, and keep making it happen, right?
Yeah.
All right, before we wrap up, would you like to let our audience know more about your organizations and how to find you all and how to possibly get involved? Stop.
There you go. Great question. You start asking that in my podcast. So if you want to listen to another podcast where you hear me talk, it's called Capital Spotlight. We interview members of Congress. We interview former staffers who have gone on to do very interesting things throughout DC and the country. So it's part of our business, but just search us. I'm really proud of my team. We have pretty good SEO. So if you search Connect, like CNCT, we're a tech company, so we have to be missing letters. You will be able to find us, and we're Capital Connect. But come join our network. Just go to our website. You'll see our app. You'll see events that we have coming up. We have an event coming up with Senate Federal Credit Union as well. So come check it out.
So we are not a tech company, and we don't have any podcast. But, we are a credit union. We're the labor credit union, and we are growing. We are establishing new branches, so we are continuously hiring. And you heard about the culture as we were talking about the credit union. So you can definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Hina Khalid. I am very open to connecting on LinkedIn, and I love being a mentor, providing people advice. So if anyone ever reaches out to me, I am always open to having conversations and learning more about you. So feel free to reach out.
Very beautiful culture that is.
Thank you.
Thank you to our guests, for everyone listening, whether you're job hunting, growing in your role, or just trying to breathe. Remember, the journey is yours to shape.
Thank you.
Your voice matters. Share topic suggestions or questions for future episodes via email at communications@ussfcu.org with the subject line podcast question or podcast topic. If you are looking to deepen your financial literacy, check out our free weekly Wednesday webinars. Secure your spot now on our website, ussfcu.org/webinars. Thank you for shining with us. Subscribe and stay tuned for our next episode.